that, you can get in touch with us, and we do not charge for that. So that's a free service that we provide. If you're not a member of our Discord group already, if you don't know what Discord is, you might probably not want to get on here. But if you're not a member of our Discord group already, you can scan that and join the group. And we have all kinds of resources posted there. We post meetings, and that's a really good place to also get in touch with us if you do have questions. You can just post in our general chat, and people will answer. So I think everybody that's going to get it got it. All right. And then most of you already know, but I'm going to tell you again, Bitcoin Day Naples is coming up on next Saturday. So it's right around the corner. We need to, I'm going to give you, everybody knows this, but if you haven't bought tickets yet and you're still considering it, there's a promo code for you. It's just Matty Ice, and it gets you 21% off. Matty Ice.
You didn't tell me that before I bought it.
Well, it wasn't available before you bought it, because you got yours at right now the ticket prices are $2.99, so let's get you 21% off that.
Yeah.
All right, so the Bitcoin Day Naples is at the Four Seasons, the Naples Beach Club, and it's January 17th. The website is up here, bitcoinday.io.
Why does it say January 18th?
Where does it say January 18th?
I just typed in Bitcoin.
That's last year's.
Details. Oh, 2025. Sorry.
Don't scare me there. But we have lots of great speakers. You asked me earlier, Ralph, who else joined, and I failed to remember that Alfie Oakes is going to join us as well. So,
Awesome.
yeah. So that'll be very interesting. We'll get him up there with some really interesting Bitcoiners, and should be a fun conversation. Okay, enough announcements, and now, so our sponsor tonight, also a sponsor of the Bitcoin Day event, is Bitcoin Well. Thank you. Many of you were here before the symposium. We had Chantel from Bitcoin Well. That rhymes nicely. And tonight we have Reilly Combs from Bitcoin Well. We're going to do something a little bit different. So we're going to do a bit of a fireside chat. I'm going to just sit down with Reilly and ask him a few questions and let him answer them. And then we'll open the floor up to questions from you guys, but I am also going to, where did I put that?
Okay, he's the same as with Chantel.
He's the same company as Chantel, yes.
Yes, Chantel's my boss.
Okay.
Chantel is Reilly's boss, yes. So if we need to go to the slides, you'll have to get up and.
Okay, yeah, no worries.
All right, so Reilly, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, good to be back.
Yeah. So do you want to tell just a little bit about yourself real quick?
Yeah. So the reason why I wanted to kind of have a more of an open conversation and not necessarily do another presentation, just because, yes, Chantel was here pretty recently back in November and did a presentation. And then through that meetup, it kind of just naturally, the conversation just kind of naturally opened up on its own as well. So rather than kind of going over a very similar presentation, I just wanted to kind of prepare some questions that John and I can talk about. And then I actually have some questions for the audience as well that we can kind of get into. So like I also mentioned, Chantel is my boss. She's our VP of operations. So for our entire company. And then I am the advisor for our Bitcoin Well Infinite service, which is our OTC desk. So that is for individuals who are looking to buy $50,000 or more in Bitcoin. And a little bit about Bitcoin Well, if you were not here for her presentation, is we are a completely non-custodial, we say exchange loosely, but really we're a platform because we're an on and off ramp because we are non-custodial. And so any of our clients, whether you are buying within your portal dashboard, for, say, maybe a reoccurring daily $21 DCA, or if you are utilizing our Infinite service to kind of have a larger transaction, any Bitcoin that you purchase on our platform is then immediately sent to your self-custody. So unlike the ETFs, for example, or unlike Coinbase or some of the other Bitcoin-only exchanges where they are custodial, where yes, they, just like us, make it very easy for you to buy Bitcoin, but they also do custody it for you if you would like. And then from there, you can withdraw if you are comfortable with Bitcoin in self-custody. For us, we are non-custodial by default because we just believe that if you are buying Bitcoin, you should be holding it in a self-sovereign way. So just kind of.
Okay, well, that's a good segue to my first question, because that was, I don't know if that was a simple explanation or if that was not a simple explanation, but I'm going to ask you for a more simple explanation. What if you can do in 2 sentences, somebody that has never
has just entered the room.
Somebody's just entered the room without using any Bitcoin jargon.
Okay.
What does Bitcoin Well do?
Okay, so our mission is to enable independence. And how we do that is we replace your bank with Bitcoin. And so that is kind of the mission of our company. And so to support that mission, that's exactly why we we are, and our founder, Adam O'Brien, when he started the company back in 2013, wanted to make sure that from the jump, the company was non-custodial to fulfill that mission.
Okay. Is that a good answer?
So replacing the bank, give me a real life example of what that would look like.
Yeah, well, our CEO is a great real life example. Our CEO has been debanked by every Canadian bank. And his wife has also been debanked by all, if not almost all, of the Canadian banks as well. And so they live through this themselves as well, which kind of makes it even easier for us to fulfill that mission, because the advantage that we have is literally from the very top of our CEO. He's building products that not only does he want to be able to, have for himself, but then it kind of makes it easier then to offer that up to our great clients.
I thought that this debanking was in the past.
Yeah.
With previous administration, that was so hard on all of us. But I heard last week someone who has a big account on JP Morgan was completely sent a letter saying.
You're talking about the Jack Mallers situation?
Not Jack Mahler. There's another on X platforms, another guy, very expressive in favor of Bitcoin, very expressive against banks. So he just, as he was talking, he just got this letter saying, you have 30 days to take your assets out of the bank. We don't want you.
Yeah.
In this administration, hearing that, it worries me.
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely still seeing that, although a lot of people thought Operation Choke Point 2.0 was completely, ended. Jordan, not to call you out, but in the back here, he actually mentioned to me a couple weeks back that he works with a lot of mining companies, and they have still, some of them, they've gotten some of their banks closed. And so I really have a unique perspective on this because I see what's happening in Canada and the US. Because again, just for additional context, if you were not here in November, whether at the meetup or at the symposium, so our company is located in Canada, specifically in Edmonton, Alberta. And then we have coverage in Canada and we have coverage in the US. And I'm located here in the US. I primarily spend my time in Indianapolis, but I do get down to Naples quite a bit throughout the year. So that's why I'm here tonight. And so we see with our clients in Canada, yes, there is definitely a bigger debanking issue still than like what we're seeing in the US. But really the biggest thing that we see is that not necessarily debanking, but the bank's unwillingness to allow one of their clients to send money to us, because they know that we're a Bitcoin company and they're trying to keep them trapped in their system and not allow them the ability to, convert their CAD into Bitcoin to then kind of opt out. And then like on the US side of things, it's not happening as much. You can usually freely send USD to a Bitcoin exchange, whether that be one of our ourselves or one of our great competitors, which we're all kind of on the same team at the end of the day. But you will hear the occasional, whether it be Jack Mallers, the individual that you're referring to, some of the mining companies that I've heard about, where it's still an issue for sure. So yeah, hopefully that works out. But if anything, it's kind of a tell, right? Of like, this is why you should be buying Bitcoin.
When you say your goal is to replace the banks with Bitcoin, do you provide like a routing number and account number as well, or?
So it basically is to kind of enable people to live on a Bitcoin standard. And so how we have built our platform, very similar to kind of what you're seeing roll out with other Bitcoin exchanges, where we have a bill pay feature. So if you're living on Bitcoin, but yes, like we still have fiat denominated expenses every month. Usually the easiest workaround that I hear, and something that I do, is I pay everything by credit card. And then at the end of the month, before my credit card bill is due, I'll convert whatever Bitcoin that I need to get the US equivalent to then pay it off. And then boom, pay it off, call it a day until the next month. And so that's kind of using both systems, like taking advantage of the legacy system for like the credit to then pay your bills, and while still being in like the hard money of Bitcoin, and then living on a Bitcoin standard and kind of have it, because I think a lot of people, they get really caught up on like HODL, and it's like, whatever Bitcoin I buy, I'm never selling it. And we're starting to see that change a little bit, where kind of the idea of like spend and replace. So as you're spending Bitcoin, whether you're converting it back into fiat to pay a bill, or maybe you actually know someone that is willing to accept Bitcoin, you're then, through your job, you're trying to then replace the Bitcoin that you spent, or you're just, again, like I said, living, kind of using, taking advantage of credit, and then like paying it off earlier. So that's kind of using both systems to your advantage.
We got a question in the back there. So you don't really need me up here.
So let's say you don't have a bank account.
Mm-hmm.
You transfer your money you transfer your Bitcoin into cash. What is the vehicle that you use to send the check? How do you
So, I mean, we still need the banking rails, and that's something I actually think about a lot, where as we move farther and farther and no, so you would still need a bank to then like get the cash, or otherwise, like if you are an individual, or any individuals in the digital audience here, your online audience, at that point, if you're you're debanked and you only have Bitcoin, then like at that point you're trying to make connections of like, well, how can I just pay people directly in Bitcoin? And I think that's another thing too, as a community, where we need to start making circular economies that are backed by Bitcoin only. So you're selling goods and services, and you're only accepting Bitcoin as payment. So yes, for us, you would still need a bank account, of course, and this is something that I try to think of like, as we move closer to a Bitcoin standard, well, how does that look? And we'll address that. We'll get there eventually, of like, well, if less and less people have bank accounts, how does this look? At that point, I think people will start to naturally set up these circular economies. But right now, you would need a bank account.
Your I don't know if it's sister company or if it's Bitcoin Well, you have ATMs, right? So you solve the problem of people that don't have bank accounts and only have cash.
True. Yes, we do, and we do have our ATMs, which people then could utilize, and that's within Canada. But actually, kind of to tease this out, we are exploring to bring some of our ATMs into the U.S. as well, just to kind of have another option for people. And yeah.
I was thinking there's several credit card companies that you send Bitcoin and they hold it, whoever it is, and then it automatically converts to whatever currency you're swiping at. And so that would be a really good way to do that without a normal bank.
For sure. Something very similar to, again, what Strike has rolled out within the last year or two, if I'm remembering correctly, the Gemini credit card now, the Fold credit card now, which I think is about to roll out because Will Reeves, the CEO of Fold, kind of teased that over the holiday. So I think they're getting close there to finally rolling out their credit card product. So that's something that we're definitely exploring right now, especially as we grow our brand and our company's presence within the US. Because we've only been in the US now for going on 3 years, give or take. Whereas, like I said earlier, the company was founded in 2013. So we've been operating in Canada for now 13, going on 13 years. And so there's still, because of that, we definitely have more infrastructure set for our Canadian clients than we do our US clients. So it's definitely still a work in progress. And that's exactly why I like to get in front of, rooms like this. So I can hear from, people in the US of like, well, what would you be looking for? Which I know we'll kind of get into in the second half of this conversation.
But your primary value proposition is that you are an on-ramp. So you're taking money and converting it to Bitcoin. And instead of holding that Bitcoin in an account, you're sending it directly to the customer's wallet.
Yep. So they're free to do whatever they would like with it.
There's no friction in between.
Correct.
The only friction is that you got to have a bank account.
showing you, you know something is wrong and you should not move forward with that transaction. Whereas you don't have that insight with a BitKey because there's not the screen on the device. But again, just like anything in life, convenience, you know, the usability of and simplicity of the UI UX. You know, there's just kind of trade-offs for everything and pros and cons. So
People want things simple.
yeah.
Things,
So-
you know, they want it easy.
Yeah, which I think also is a driver of kind of some of the issues that we see today. But that's a
Well, I've gone both ways.
Yeah.
Ledger.
Yep.
Went through that whole thing. I've actually made transactions from Coinbase to the Ledger and back and forth. It's a pain in the ass. You know?
Yeah, and then Ledger has, you know, their
You have to
10th
sit
data
down,
breach.
You have to be quiet and get, and not be disturbed. And you can get it done.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like she said, just buy on Coinbase. That's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Well, and like again, like there's trade-offs with that.
Your
With
Bitcoin.
yeah, there's trade-offs with that too.
Also back to her concern over there, right? Is that okay, go ahead and buy on Coinbase and stuff, and then get that hour or so that you can get by yourself and put it on over to the Ledger.
Mm-hmm. Or again, you know, that's where, you know, obviously the in terms of kind of taking the next step forward in overall Bitcoin adoption, where the ETFs have been very helpful as well. Yeah. Then it's like I don't even have to worry about making a Coinbase account. You know, for a lot of people, they already have a lot of their wealth, you know, trapped within, you know, their brokerage account or their various retirement accounts. And it's like, okay, well, let's see what some of my, you know, losers were for this year. We'll just liquidate that, go into cash, and like, let's, you know, buy some, some of iBit, or what I would recommend if you're in iBit. You know, not financial advice, and depending on what your potential taxable tax hit would be, I would definitely recommend Fidelity's ETF over anything, because they've done all of their custody in-house, whereas everyone else, their back end is Coinbase. So it's kind of created this really big honeypot.
Which one is Fidelity?
FBTC.
FBTC, and you can do just traditional IRA, or you can do it in a Roth IRA.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put it in a Roth, then no tax.
Yeah, so yeah, I would say if you have iBit and a Roth, I would just liquidate that and switch over. But again, I'm not a financial professional.
So from an inheritance point of view, if you're not concerned about the potential technical limitations that you may have, what would be your favorite path to having an inheritance and estate planning?
Yeah, absolutely. So just like making sure that your next of kin would be just equipped with everything. So kind of having like those honest conversations with them of like, this is where the hardware devices are.
So single sig and sharing direct information.
Yeah. So and again, it's completely up to you. I know you know, people have kind of thresholds for everything. So, you know, they maybe have X amount of Bitcoin on a single sig, and then they kind of get to a point where they start to get uncomfortable, and then like maybe they have a multi-sig set up with like the remaining, you know, larger Bitcoin balance within that, which then that's where it gets interesting. And as a family, you can kind of start to like work together on this. Is like, maybe you have one of the keys, you know, one of the kids have one of the, you know, however you structure it internally. But yeah, I would say if you're not worried about next of kin and their technical ability, it's just having the honest conversation with them of like where everything is at, making sure that they're involved in that process. And then from there, you can make it as simple or complex as you want.
Is there such a thing as multi-sig where one key is the power key, the main key that must be used?
I think I actually heard something recently, but for them where one key could potentially have, but I don't think we're quite there yet. But really, they're all kind of the same, and it's really the quorum itself. Is whether it's 2 of 3, then you just 2 of 3. The keys need to unlock it, or 3 of 5. so on and so forth. I would say anything more than 3 of 5 is overkill. Yeah. But.
You know, I like the Sparrow wallet.
Mhm.
It's really, really complete. You get the multi-sig,
Mhm.
the thresholds, you know, 5, 4 out of 5.
Mhm.
You can just, and it's so secure. For me, it's very secure. It's almost like a hard wallet because you have a password, you have a PIN,
Mhm.
then you have your keys, and you have your seed phrases. It's very, very well put together.
Yeah.
And they maintain really well.
Mhm.
And you can access if you lose your computer.
Mhm.
You can just jump onto another computer.
Yeah, absolutely.
If somebody steals your computer, they cannot have an access to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beautiful and powerful thing about the seed phrase, right? And which is just a representation of your private key, which is a long string of zeros and ones. But yeah, I think a lot of people, they get worried when they're maybe ready for that conversation about a hardware wallet. But then people maybe like pause and they're like, well, what if I lose it? Or what if it malfunctions? And it's like, no, as long as you have that seed phrase, I always tell my clients of kind of, just joke around about it, where it's like, you could literally set up, whether you buy a Jade or a Cold Card, whatever the case, I always recommend outside of BitKey, buy a Bitcoin only hardware wallet that's open source. And that's kind of typically my recommendation. And then I tell my clients as long as you set it up correctly, you have your seed phrase, and you generate that very first Bitcoin address that it gives you, you could literally just take a sledgehammer to your hardware wallet and just be done with it. Because again, as long as you have that seed phrase written down correctly, that's all that matters. Like, that is what gives you the access or the key to unlock the Bitcoin, prove your ownership of it on chain, and be able to transact it as you wish. So yeah.
Yeah,
And
one thing that I really had fun when I was explaining to someone, where is the Bitcoin? They all think that it is in your USB, in your hardware wallet.
correct.
It is not there.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
in the air, it's in the node.
Yes.
Anywhere.
Yeah. So I have found that, like the hardware wallets help to make it feel more tangible. And because of that, that's why people think that it's like, oh, it's on that device, so I have to like protect this device with my life. And no, like that's not necessarily the case. You could put it literally under, behind your tire, run it over with your car. As long as you have your seed phrase, that's all that matters.
However, to eliminate a third party is just golden.
Yeah.
Period.
Absolutely.
Because then you don't have to worry about them getting hacked.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to worry about them getting in bed with Big Brother, whomever,
Mm-hmm.
and seizing your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that a hardware wallet's the only way to go.
Yeah, and again, and kind of like going back to, a lot of people, they struggle with that, it's this digital asset. I can't touch it.
If kids don't know, then buy them a little bit of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And get them involved.
Exactly.
Hand them a hardware wallet.
100%. And what I tell and what I think, that's one of the biggest aspects, especially in, the great country of the United States, where, we have so much, as Alex Gladstein says, financial privilege. Like, it's very easy to open up a bank account. It's very easy to open up a retirement account. Whereas in a lot of other countries, like, that is not the case. And so Bitcoin is their saving grace. And I think like that is something that within the US is still really underappreciated with Bitcoin, is like, I have my bank accounts, I have my brokerage accounts. Why do I need Bitcoin? And it's like, well, first of all, a lot of, the biggest issue and struggle that a lot of people have of kind of like getting over the digital hurdle about Bitcoin is like, oh, well, I can't touch it. It's just, numbers on a screen. It's like, well, what else is numbers on a screen? Everything. So it's like, I don't understand why that's such a big struggle for people, but it is. And maybe it's just an excuse at this point. I don't know, but it's like everyone should be pretty comfortable with that at this point. And then kind of the second layer of that is, well, more and more people are hearing these debanking stories. My Canadian clients definitely hear it a lot, but people within the US are starting to kind of hear about it as well. And that's definitely a big eye opener, right? Where it's like, wow, like we're literally at flip of a switch. It's like, boom, you're out 30 days, move your money somewhere else, which then at that point might be hard, because it's like, well, if one bank just debanked you, a lot of other banks probably aren't going to accept your money, because they're all connected, right? So, and like that's where Bitcoin comes in, is just being your own bank.
The thing is to be quiet,
Mhm. Mhm.
because the more Bitcoin is adopted, the less we need banks. So banks are threatened. They're fighting for their own existence.
Yeah, that's why they're making
So they're
Bitcoin
gonna
products and
make
services,
it,
because they want a piece of the pie after dismissing it for 16 years.
Right.
So.
But the moth is being created.
But that's a trap within itself, right?
The rails, yes.
Where again, they are pissed that they've kind of missed their piece of the pie for the last 16 years. Companies like us have been making money off of Bitcoin, companies like Coinbase, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, now it's like their time to shine. But it's like, how is that going to look? Will they allow you? So PNC, for example, their wealth management is going to start allowing their clients, and I think it's live now, to be able to buy Bitcoin. Okay, great. Sure. Their clients can easily buy Bitcoin within the four walls that, they've had a very long established relationship with, and a company that they trust. Well, are they going to be able to withdraw that Bitcoin? That's the big question, right? And if not, then again, you're kind of just running into the same problem like people run into with Coinbase, like people run into with the ETFs, where it's like, if you cannot redeem it in kind, I mean, I tell a lot of people, it's like kind of defeats the purpose of having Bitcoin exposure, in my opinion. It's like, if you can't use it in its full capacity, then I don't know, maybe you should just kind of go to gold. I mean, it has been performing well, but
It's price action.
yeah, it's price action. But I feel like if you're going to do the work of getting exposure to Bitcoin, you should take the steps, whether they're leaps or baby steps, to make sure that you are moving in the direction of having full self-custody of it. So then you can use Bitcoin as peer-to-peer electronic cash.
I have a question, and it's probably common sense. So I have one Bitcoin and I'm gonna put it in with you.
You have 0 Bitcoin, yep.
What?
You have X amount of Bitcoin. Yeah, you have X amount of Bitcoin. But yeah.
I think that was an example.
Yeah, as an example.
I have one Bitcoin
Yeah.
and put it in with you. So I give you the one Bitcoin and not the 90,000 that it's worth.
If you were to hypothetically sell this hypothetical Bitcoin that you have, yes, you would send the Bitcoin to us, we would liquidate it, and then we would send you the cash. But if you are asking, would we custody the Bitcoin?
I'm putting the custody in.
No, that's not something that we offer at this point. So
what do we give you?
So we're just an on and off ramp. So if you are buying Bitcoin, it would be cash in, Bitcoin out. If you are selling existing Bitcoin that you already own.
You're not holding it.
No, we're not. We're non-custodial. Eventually, and to kind of.
And once you put it in a hardware wallet, John or someone will help you, coach you through it.
Yeah.
So that you are self-custody.
You'll learn how to do it.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
gotten so easy
It's-
today
Mhm.
compared to even 5 years ago.
Mhm.
The devices are so user-friendly now. But the whole idea is you can, in this financial landscape, you can leverage both for what they're worth, right? You can play the traditional finance games with your Bitcoin and leverage it, or buy through a custodian, through an ETF, if you want that exposure. But for your long-term savings, your multi-generational money, right? Like your life's energy, that you want in self-custody, so that
no matter what happens to that exchange, no matter what
Yeah,
happens
so
to,
no matter what, you end up going back to that hard code.
you have that.
Yeah,
as-
the hardware wallet, yeah.
And your active, your investments that you want to speculate with,
It's,
have them online, right? But take advantage of what the full offer of Bitcoin
Mhm.
is.
it's the same thing that people used to do. Remember, where there was a time when people didn't trust the banks, so they kept their cash
Yeah.
in their mattress, right?
Mhm.
So they kept the cash in a coffee can at that house,
Yeah,
right? Because they didn't trust the banks to hold it
right.
and keep it for them. And that's the same, that's the place where we are now. It's Bitcoin, the hardware wallet is that cash in the mattress or cash in the coffee can at home
Mhm.
that nobody else can touch.
Mhm.
Only you can touch that, and only you have control of that, and only you can send that to somebody else if you want to.
And the added benefit that we all know the denominator of 21 million Bitcoin. Whereas even when the people were,
People didn't
untrustworthy,
realize
they were losing
Understand
purchasing power
inflation, yes.
when they had the cash under the mattress and everything. And so Bitcoin can kind of serve a very similar role while also providing you with the upside of, if you are pricing it in fiat. And how there's a lot of capital, there's over $900 trillion of dollars sloshing around in the world.
Real estate, right? The investments are going to transition over to Bitcoin.
And
It's so much easier. No upkeep costs.
Yeah.
It eliminates so many of the more expensive elements of holding tangible assets.
Yeah.
And instant settlement, right? No, you cut out the middleman once more. It gives you those options. Circular economies are definitely being built all around the world. If America doesn't get with the program, they're going to lose that race, and other nations will. Like we're seeing in El Salvador. Look at what you're doing in Canada, right? We're behind here, and hopefully this year we're going to see an explosion of Bitcoin services. But with the market being sideways, it's been a bit quiet. Boring is good for Bitcoin because that's actually a bullish sign. This is the time you should be buying in. But what we were promised from the administration wasn't all the way fulfilled, and we're still seeing some examples of the choke point 2.0 remnants in place, and so hopefully that's addressed. To be determined, but one way you can hedge against the certainty that we know is coming, which is another multi-trillion
Another
dollar
big print.
fiat currency that's going to further debase your savings, might temporarily stimulate the economy and whatnot, but they're riding a bubble, and Bitcoin is eventually going to devour all of those unreliable bonds, right, and whatever other mechanisms they're using to keep things afloat, right? They're no longer calling it quantitative easing. What are they calling it now? What was Larry saying today?
Oh, I forget. But yes, they did give it a new name.
They just rename it. It's the same thing. Same games.
Yeah, I forgot.
Bitcoin is one way to hedge, and you can hedge and hold your own wallet across any border, any time. This is a massive advantage.
Yeah.
If they kill the off-ramps, you can still buy a ticket to Dubai or to El Salvador or to somewhere, and you can retrieve your value.
Yeah. The flag 3 aspect of it all too. And there were a couple nuggets that you mentioned that I want to touch on, but kind of work backwards. So again, just like how within the current administration, how like choke point 2.0 was supposed to just completely end. That's not necessarily the case. Another mandate within Trump's.
Does everybody here know what that was? It sounds, it's not everybody might be aware of what that was to begin with.
Choke point 2.0?
Choke point 1 and 2.
Yeah, I guess we should start at 1.
So just give a quick little overview of what the hell we're talking about.
I can say it in one word, Gensler.
Gary Gensler. Part of that, yeah.
Well, I know. So if feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. So Operation Choke Point, just OG, I guess, was during the Obama administration, and it was industries like marijuana, guns, and I think maybe Yes. Oh, yeah. 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 Yep. Yep. Yeah. Strip malls. So that was kind of the first issue where there was a lot of debanking within those industries. That's why actually the online gambling too. That's why kind of in the early days you saw a lot of Bitcoin adoption within kind of the gambling community because they kind of got shut off, and they were a lot of times, they were doing their gambling online anyway. So it kind of made sense of like, all right, well, let's just use the internet of money, right? So, and then 2.0 was then within the Biden administration, where that was more so just directed at crypto at large, and companies like ourselves or Coinbase, like they were having issues, opening up bank accounts, having like the full support of the banking system, which again, it's like follow the incentives. Of course, they were having issues because it threatens the bank's business model. And then, of course, people at the individual level were also having problems opening bank accounts or. Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. And so, yeah, I think that kind of speeds us up to Operation Choke Point 2.0. And going back to the mandate, a part of Trump's executive order as well is that you're not supposed to sell any seized Bitcoin, which they actually were just caught doing through the Samurai case, where the Samurai developers had to give up, it was like $6.3 million worth of Bitcoin, and it's already been sold. And that's against their mandate. So that will be interesting to see how that all is handled and if the Bitcoin is repurchased or whatever comes of that. The second mention that you had about, like Canada, I think why I would actually say that Bitcoin adoption within Canada and like seasoned, hardened Bitcoiners within Canada is probably they're probably further ahead than the US, like per capita, of course. From what I've kind of gathered through, my 1 year now at Bitcoin Well here in a couple of days, because they've been through their events with like the trucker protest and people being debanked like that through things like that. And there are circular economies within Canada. The biggest one, at least that I know of, is Sats Market, which is organized by BTC Sessions, that maybe some of you are familiar with, that does great tutorial videos online. Bitcoin Well is a proud sponsor of BTC Sessions and his various ventures. And in Calgary, which is also located in Alberta, they have a Sats market. So it's very similar to the farmers market that we see down on Third Ave, but everything would be you're paying in Bitcoin. So it's very cool. And then there was I wanted to go back to kind of the first thing that you started, but I'm kind of blanking now. So we'll just kind of keep it there.
Okay, I can remind you that you did a good summary. I think the one of the points was just how people can take advantage of both opportunities.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you can have a happy middle ground and leverage the new instruments that are popping up that allow you to borrow against your Bitcoin, do all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to understand that you take a risk. Right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And although, I remember it. And so I'll make sure to kind of touch on both points. So your mention of real estate, that was kind of another big theme that I saw this year, was a lot of my high net worth clients are actually starting to sell off some of their real estate portfolio because of the same things that, Paul mentioned earlier, where it's like you have, all of these issues with insurance, taxes. A lot of times when someone has like a big real estate portfolio, you're typically renting out those homes, and so you're having to deal with tenants and the risk associated with them, and it's just one thing after another for maybe a 3 to 5% yield, if kind of being generous on maybe the upper bound there. Whereas like with Bitcoin, you could just have an even scarcer asset, because the whole idea, again, this is my opinion, maybe not all of you agree with this, but real estate's not scarce. Like real estate on, maybe here in Naples is scarce because there's only so much, coastline real estate. But, real estate in the middle of America or whatever country, It's kind of like warehouse one-on-one. If you run out of horizontal space, where do you go? You go up. And so real estate is not scarce, especially too, you want to like fall down the rabbit hole. We start to explore space more. There's more real estate from that. That whole thing kind of just goes right out the window real quick. And so like with Bitcoin, it's like you can actually have something that is verifiably scarce, where again, 21 million Bitcoins, and that's it. No matter how far we get ahead on this planet or on Mars, whatever the case may be, there will only be 21 million Bitcoin. And then again, kind of going back to your lending and kind of loans and how that was a big common theme for 2025 for me in the conversations that I was having with individuals is yes, Bitcoin, because of its characteristics, does make for very good collateral. But just like any leverage, there are risks. And these are brand new products. And kind of what we saw too, and if you want to put on your tinfoil hat, the October 10th liquidation event, I don't know, kind of looks a little sus. And like there could be liquidation events like that where they try to, kind of wipe people out that are maybe using Bitcoin as collateral to then for these large institutions to start to gobble up the Bitcoin supply from, the plebs and that are, that have, Bitcoin within their self-custody. So like that's where you just kind of want to be mindful of. And maybe for the time being, yes, you kind of experiment with it a little bit. But one thing that I recommend for a majority of my clients is just use your brokerage account or your existing real estate like you have already been doing as collateral, and just keep your Bitcoin safe for now until we kind of see the lending industry within the broader Bitcoin marketplace kind of mature a little bit more and that volatility to also drop.
Going back to the Bitcoin usability conversation, I use Stripe as my payment gateway. How complicated or easy is it to organize to start accepting Bitcoin?
Yeah, so Stripe, again, I'm not, anyone feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But I think there's maybe a way where you can just kind of like turn something on now. The what?
Are you an invoicing business? I am. I'm actually selling tickets to a sports team, but it goes through a ticketing platform, which they would have to set something up. But all payment gateways all our payments go through Stripe. Stripe. Yeah, so it's not a invoice. You say Stripe. Stripe.
P.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You should.
You might look into Zapright.
Yeah.
That would be Stripe. Yeah. Well, you.
No, Zapright has a.
Yeah, I know they're separate, but that's what I'm saying. And then you could link your Bitcoin wallet as well, and then the payment experience for your customer gives them the option to pay in Bitcoin, Lightning, or card.
Which Stripe with the people paying in card, you would be using Stripe as the back end within Zapright. And then what's actually very unique about Zapright is you could also charge them a premium for those people that are paying by card and a discount if they pay you in Bitcoin, which is 100%, which is really cool. And then actually Zapright would be a great solution for you if you find yourselves doing a lot of ticketing, because Zapright actually has like a ticket feature built in internally as well. So might kind of help you with just kind of having a cleaner experience.
I'm using Zapright, the Zapright ticketing app for Bitcoin Day.
Bitcoin Day? Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so that's just
you can just click through it, even if you're not going to buy a ticket, you can see what the interface looks like.
Matty Ice.
Yeah. And that would just be Zaprite, and really great team behind Zapright of Bitcoiners.
Yeah. Ma'am, you had a question here?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to really guess this personally, just because I don't know. Everybody else probably knows this. So you said that the banks eventually will, the hope is crypto, Bitcoin will take over the banks.
Mhm.
But there's a limit on the amount of Bitcoin.
Mhm.
So how could that ever happen?
Ye-
Does that make sense? Is that right on?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And when people kind of hear the crazy Bitcoiners talk about, a Bitcoin standard and everything, they're like, well, 21 million, how's that enough for, 8 billion people? And probably at that point, 9+ billion when we maybe actually get close to seeing that type of world. But so what people, if they're not aware of, is, yes, there's 21 million Bitcoin, which is a very small number. I know it, maybe in net worth, it doesn't necessarily sound like a small number, but when you are accounting for the entire world, yes, it's obviously a very small number. But what people have to remember, or what they have to learn if they don't know so already, is there are 100 million Satoshis that make up a Bitcoin. So just like there are 100 pennies, which, there's no, go on. just, or, just, I guess, they're just like, there's 20 nickels that make up $1. There are 100 million Satoshis that make up one Bitcoin. So when you are actually thinking in terms of sats and there being enough to, go around for everyone, there's plenty.
21 quadrillion.
Yeah, there's
21 quadrillion.
Yeah,
But let me address the real question, because you asked about Bitcoin taking over banks. It's not that Bitcoin is going to take over banks.
Well,
It's
no,
just that,
it's just the dollar.
yeah.
That's right.
So the relationship between Bitcoin and banks is banks are just custodians, right? They're just custodians of our money. And
No, I was talking about Bitcoin taking over the dollar. If there's a limited amount.
So ideally, like eventually, once the price discovery of Bitcoin is established, and Bitcoin has consumed most other
the value of most other assets.
right, yeah. At that point, essentially, the price is going to stabilize, and then Satoshis, which are those smaller
Units.
Units. Thank you. Units of count of a Bitcoin are going to ideally eventually equal $1, right? Where like a sat is $1, and by that point, a Bitcoin will be worth
$100 million.
So that's $100 million Bitcoin.
But if you look at all the various
Dollar sat parity.
right, that's way out in the future, but that's the idea. Eventually, people are going to transact in that manner. Where nobody's sending a Bitcoin, right? An entire Bitcoin is going to be multi-generational wealth.
Well, so the thing is, so the government continues to print dollars. There's more debt, more and more debt, and more debt every year. $35 trillion in debt in 2025, and it just keeps
the
printing.
interest on the debt itself is more than our GDP or something. It's just insane.
Eventually, that somebody has to pay that back, but people aren't going to pay that back as the value of the dollar decreases and decreases and decreases, because the supply of the dollar has been increasing and increasing and increasing. There eventually becomes a point at which that dollar is of no value whatsoever. And there could be a time where that bottle of water cost you $100 million, right?
Because the dollar is so worthless.
Because the dollar is so worthless. And so as that happens, so real estate is a really good example. Just your own home. If you own a home, if you bought a home in Naples, Florida in 2017, like I did, it doubled in value from 2017 to 2020.
But it really did.
Right?
Exactly.
It doubled in the value, the dollar amount doubled. But what really happened,
didn't change, the money changed.
right, the money changed. What really happened is the value of the dollar went down.
Got cut in half.
$1 got cut in half. And but if you look at it the other way around, you look at it in how much Bitcoin did that home cost in 2017. I don't know the numbers. I'm just going to make them up. But it would have been something like
$3,000.
What?
The Bitcoin price, it was like 3,000 to then like the jump of 20. So
Yeah, so it would have been, 100 Bitcoin, whereas now that home is worth 3 Bitcoin, right? So it's just a matter of where does the value get absorbed? And so the real utility of your home is a place to live. Buy your home to live in, and it has a value based on that utility. But the value of your home right now, of my home, is not only the utility value, it is the monetary value that's associated with it as well. But as I figure out that monetary value is not real, it's only a result of inflation, and I take that, which I did take a home equity loan and use some of that home equity to buy Bitcoin, which is the more valuable asset, right? People are going to start doing that. We're taking the value out of their real estate and replacing it with Bitcoin, and eventually the value of the real estate will drop to its utility value, which is the value of a place to live.
Back to her question, and this flips out most Bitcoin maxis when I say this, but we're not going to abandon a dollar, and they're not going to abandon a yuan, they're not going to abandon a ruble. None of that's going to get abandoned. They will just fix their value of each of those currencies to a basket of somethings, including and maybe even the majority of Bitcoin, but it will probably also be gold, silver, oil, and whatever else.
Yeah.
Buy a dump truck to carry your dollars around to pay.
Yeah.
Just work it in.
Well, they just do what they did. Just do what they did in Russia in the 90s. I was traveling back and forth in Russia in the 90s, and they just revalued the currency. Like if you had 1,000 ruble bills and you didn't turn them in at the bank to exchange them for the new 100 ruble bills, then you were shit out of luck, right? If you didn't get there by the deadline, you just had to change your currency, and they just revalued it. They just decreased it by 10%, so you didn't have to keep track of it so much.
Yeah, and to your comment on that and how it might upset some individuals, that's where I try not to spend too much brain power on kind of the what ifs. But to that point within itself, though, is then that's why you should just be buying Bitcoin. Of yes, if there are people who were very optimistic that no, we'll just move to a completely Bitcoin standard, all fiat currencies will die, we'll be using Satoshis for everything. Or it's the fiat currencies will still live, and the only reason that they survive to some sort of extent is because we return to some sort of hard money standard or commodity standard, where it's we would have a return to gold backing the currency. Yes, maybe probably oil, Bitcoin would be in the mix, but it's don't get caught up in the what ifs. It's just that thesis alone should just be why you're buying Bitcoin, and then wherever the world moves, it's at least you have exposure to it. That is the most important thing at the end of the day.
And pay attention to what's going on around you. Going to the bank now is completely different than 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Go in and ask about, just like we were saying about Coinbase, go in and ask what the bank's minimum daily or weekly withdrawals. Two people in front of me trying to cash a check that either one of their wives had an account, and they were not big checks, $200 or $300. And because that person did not have an account at that trust, they would not cash. And these people are getting livid, but they're not paying attention to what's going on with the rules and regulations at the banks, because the banks are squeezing, and they're all exactly what you said, John. They're working just like you are arbitrage. They're working on the difference of either holding it, reinvesting it, moving their money, shaving, flipping, and like everyone else is, exchanging their energy and time for something that they want. Banks are the same thing, but banks are getting very, very, very strict with rules.
Yeah.
And
tell you something else. If you have, on the flip side, assets in digital currency, until very, very recently, you could have, name a number, $500 million in Bitcoin. Just name a number. And let's say you didn't have either a normal job, or you didn't have some kind of government-approved income coming in, you might as well just be a beggar on the street, because they did not, and still really
Still
don't
mostly, that's correct.
Recognize it.
that.
Yeah.
And God forbid you sell a Bitcoin or half a Bitcoin or something for a down payment on a piece of real estate.
Right.
Because then all of a sudden, the mortgage company is like, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah.
You're
That's criminal.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? We didn't accept that. You got, like gifts, obviously, certain dollar amounts you can get. And they just wouldn't even recognize that money, even though it was a true asset. So the banks are really telling us all what's going on, and they're feeling the squeeze right now. And I do agree it's going to be a long time in the transition. There'll be fiat ways of paying for stuff, I think, all over the world. But just pay attention to what's going on around you, and listen to the bank and find out what's happening, because you'll need to do things like exchange money both ways, or money both ways.
Yeah. I think this is where people, if they don't already have Bitcoin exposure, need to kind of take a hard look at themselves in the mirror, because the same institutions that are getting into this game, FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, kind of their propaganda within the legacy media, where like they dismissed Bitcoin for a very, very long time. Well, why do you think they did that? Again, one, they couldn't make money, and so they felt threatened by that, and they were pissed off that they couldn't make money from that. And then, of course, two, yes, it does, threaten their business model. But, now you had all those years of, even Larry Fink now admits it, or, Jamie Dimon at Chase. It's like, they badmouth Bitcoin for so long, but that was one to kind of, keep people away. So then it would buy them more time to then maybe take a serious look at this and kind of prepare themselves internally. So then when they could start making money, it's like, oh, no, we're super supportive of it. And everyone just like thinks like, oh, like that's great. And it's like, I guarantee their conviction on Bitcoin hasn't necessarily changed. I know, Larry Fink kind of, gives off this impression that he's been like baptized by Bitcoin, and he has a completely different opinion to that. I don't think like that is 100% the truth. It is because he can make money from it because of iBit. And so you have to, pay attention to these people's actions, because there for a long time, if you were really doing the digging, what they were saying was completely different than like what they were actually doing behind closed doors when that information would start to like quietly make its way out. So you really have to pay attention to their actions. And I know like right now, it's like, yes, they're very vocal about Bitcoin now, of course. They're very vocal about, all of a sudden we've kind of seen a shift where Larry has talked less about Bitcoin and more about tokenization. It's like, all right, well, that's probably the next thing, right? He doesn't just talk about that just to talk about it. And so it's like, if you don't already have exposure, like this is where the world is moving. And, we're still very early. I think a lot of people, like, they think they've missed the boat because, the whole unit bias, and, we're at $90,000. Like that sounds a lot for just, one Bitcoin. But again, you have to remember the denominator of like, well, that's one of 21 million. There are 60 million millionaires just within the US. So if every millionaire tomorrow is a clean slate, the full 21 million are in supply, ready to be purchased, a third of those millionaires could have a full coin. And like, well, what does that happen when you start bidding against each other? Well, the price of the Bitcoin goes up. And that's just millionaires in the US. And so, yeah, like you have to, if you haven't done so already, it's still very early. I always encourage people to kind of rewire how they see Bitcoin. And again, remember that one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. One Bitcoin is not $90,000. We just associate a fiat price to it, so we better understand and can perceive the value of it. Just because we are everything in our life is denominated in dollars, and so it's just easier for us to view it like that. But one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin, and an exercise that I like to kind of share with people, and kind of what John was talking about a little bit ago, is there's this great website called, I want to say Priced in Bitcoin, or something, but it has the medium median home price priced in Bitcoin, and how you kind of see that, where John was saying, like, in 2017, a $300,000 house was 100 Bitcoin, and now that's 3 Bitcoin. Or it prices the S&P 500 in Bitcoin, and while when you're on E-Trade or whatever, you kind of see your S&P 500 ETF up and to the right. Well, in Bitcoin terms, it's down and to the right. Okay, yes, all right, yes.
It's a very good site.
It's a very good site where you can really visualize this in real terms. And
that was for those online, pricedinbitcoin21.com.
Mm-hmm. And all of the various assets that you may have exposure to in the world, it's presenting you with a false reality that your net worth is also just increasing. And yes, as an asset holder, you are going to do very well in an economy that continues to further and further debase itself. And that's why for a lot of people that are not asset holders, they are falling further and further behind. But again, you're not getting the full picture when you are then just turning around and still denominating your assets in the currency that is being inflated day in and day out. And so it's a very interesting kind of experiment to start pricing your various assets, or maybe your overall net worth itself in Bitcoin. And as you track that throughout the years, it kind of gives you more of a realistic picture of your true purchasing power. Because again, it's like, sure, maybe within the last 5 years, when they printed 40% of the money supply that has ever existed, your stock portfolio is probably looking pretty good right now. But does that actually equate into like the amount of purchasing power? Not necessarily. So.
When you say Bitcoin, are you including Litecoin and Ethereum?
No, just Bitcoin.
No, just Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So do we not want to have Litecoin?
I'm a free market guy. You can make investment decisions, as we're all grown-ups in this room. You can make your own investments, but I would say, like, Bitcoin is king, just like the whole saying cash is king. Bitcoin is king compared to the broader crypto market. And a lot of these cryptocurrencies, they don't have the scarcity characteristic of it. A lot of times, while they may say that they're decentralized, there's this kind of this acronym within our space. It's really like DINO, so decentralized in name only. They kind of just say that they're decentralized, but you can easily find on their website that they have a founding team, and it looks no different than if you were go to any company website, whether that be a startup or a very established company, and you can find their executive staff and anyone else that they may have listed. So yes, there is a clear difference between Bitcoin and then everything else. Just like,
Well,
that's a cover.
This is the way I like to explain it to people. This is the way I like to explain it, that Bitcoin is the original cryptocurrency. It is the discovery of how to move money safely over the internet, and internet-based money. It's actually a protocol the internet of money. And it's the original discovery of how to solve that problem. Every single other cryptocurrency is a spin-off of that, right?
Even about Trump.
Yeah. Well, so when you're using those, when you're buying and selling those other cryptocurrencies, it's like a casino. Some of them have valid use cases, and some of them will win. I like to equate it to the .com era, where when the internet was first invented and people first started using the internet, and there was all these companies that came out. There was, can't even think of all of them.
Pets.com.
Pets.com. All these different companies came out and started and tried to make a go of it. And only a very few of them survived. That's why we have Amazon as such a huge giant and these others. So those other cryptocurrencies are just like that. You're gambling on a whole slew of potential winners.
Mm-hmm.
And
13,000 of them.
Yeah, or more.
Oh, there's way more. I would. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So Bitcoin is money. That's it. That's all. If you think of cryptocurrency, it's a currency. It's money.
Right now, it's more of a savings technology.
I would say it's
Bitcoin, Paul. Bitcoin is money. That's all it's meant to be.
I thought Litecoin and Ethereum.
So
Ethereum. Those are.
Think of those as like tech startups. That's how I easily explain the difference between is Bitcoin is hard digital money, Ethereum all the way down to I mean there's with you account for the meme coins, there are millions now. They are tech startups.
And the risk goes up the further away you get.
Correct. And some may kind of have their Amazon moment, but the 99% of them will be great tax loss harvesting opportunities. So, especially if you measure them in Bitcoin.
And so you have to make.
The way I understand Bitcoin, for me, is an asset. I am a Bitcoin maxi, and why am I a Bitcoin asset is because I don't consider it as a medium of exchange, but because of its intrinsic value.
Mm-hmm.
So there are so many things that are yet to be built on it as a pristine collateral, as a pristine asset. It should be preserved as long as we can until the second layers on it start being built, and we can do it as a medium of exchange.
The strongest force in the race.
Yes. And that's where I think, if anything, as well, where to kind of easily explain the two, where kind of every cryptocurrency outside of Bitcoin is kind of like a tech play, and in my opinion, at least, a lot of them too, I kind of view it as like a sandbox of like what additional features could maybe be implemented on top of Bitcoin as additional layer 2s, 3s, so on and so forth. But yes, to kind of keep things very simple, it's Bitcoin is digital money, and everything else, it's like, it's again, it's your choice, but there is certainly kind of the speculation gamble to it for sure.
Yeah, it's a gamble. And the best way to decide is to learn. You're sitting in here learning about Bitcoin and going deep into it and really understanding it. And if you want to stay invested in those other cryptocurrencies, learn about them. If you believe that they have a utility, that they really will make it, then stay invested. If not, sell them and buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Most of the banks' new stable coins are being built on Ethereum.
Mm-hmm.
And why are they being built on Ethereum? Because, it's a proof of stake model of government.
Which that's what fiat is proof of stake.
Exactly. It's another way of fiat. So they have a few banks that are going to be having most of the money to govern this chain, where the stable coin is running. They cannot do that with Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
But they can do it on Lightning. They can do it on Solana. They can do it on Ethereum.
familiar with the Aqua Wallet. You can do, is that on Lightning Rails or?
Yeah, Aqua Wallet's on Lightning Rails.
Is it?
Yeah.
So they already have a stable coin. You can transfer.
And yeah, and for those of you that don't know, Lightning is a layer 2 on top of Bitcoin, whereas you have your base layer of Bitcoin. You send a Bitcoin transaction. There's about, give or take, a 10-minute settlement on that, depending on how long it takes for the next block to be found by all the miners and added to the time chain. And then there's a second layer on top of that, which the Lightning network, which that's where that then gave back in 2017 the ability to send instant transactions to the recipient, so you don't have to wait for that 10-minute block time anymore. It's just you could send someone, and you can also send smaller amounts of Bitcoin too. Because it's less expensive. So you could send someone just for easy numbers 1,000 satoshis, which would be $1. So you could send that to someone across the world on the Lightning rails, and it's going to get to them pretty much for free, or maybe like a satoshi is taken out of it for a fee and they receive 999 satoshis. And you try to send $1 to someone across the world on like the fiat, like you can't. A wire fee alone is $25 to $50 for domestic international wires. So that's where kind of Andreas Antonopoulos kind of coined this term of like Bitcoin being the internet of money. Is like we're going to be able to send like very small transactions to one another on the internet, and you're not going to have this like friction and it being very slow and expensive when trying to do that with dollars on the current fiat rails.
So we have about 10 minutes left, but I want to interrupt. I'm going to put Ronnie on the spot for a second, because Ronnie brought me this beautiful Christmas gift, and I promised to bring it along, but I totally forgot. But it was a beautiful pendant with a Bitcoin symbol on it, and you wanted me to tell. Do you want to tell who the artist is and where you got that?
Yeah, I got it from the Vanderbilt.
The Vanderbilt Farmers Market.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And the guy is and his wife. They're very creative. This is one of his designs, and they sell for around $40 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just beautiful artists, and I've used it as gifts, and I just think the world of him and his wife. But they have made this into also a lot of Bitcoin. Yeah.
So they have Bitcoin art, Bitcoin pendants and things.
So I'm assuming they're Bitcoiners themselves.
And so they're at the Vanderbilt Farmers Market.
Yes.
What day is it? What day is it?
Oh, I'm sorry. From
The Bayshore
on
Farmers
Saturday from 8
There's
to
another
1.
one?
8 to 1.
8 to 1
It's
on
by
Saturday.
like Vanderbilt and Livingston. Is that
Yes.
Vanderbilt.
Or is it?
I've learned that Naples has a lot of farmers markets.
Vanderbilt and Airport. Yeah. On Saturdays, you said?
Yeah, from 8 to 1.
8 to 1 on Saturdays. So.
I'm usually hanging out there having fun.
Are you? And do they accept Bitcoin?
Yes, they don't.
Wow.
Yes, they don't. Is that what you said?
Okay.
But I'm sure I can convince them.
Yeah.
They don't have the technology.
Just convince them to come here at least, and then they'll.
Yeah, I mean, all it takes is just spinning up a blue wallet.
That's great thought there.
Yeah.
So one thing I did for my kid, I said last time, but my kid's 10 years old now, and he would put his chore money aside, and I told him, hey, if you give me your chore money, it'll appreciate in value. Right? And over a year, it really did appreciate in value, and that was a very good learning lesson for him to understand an appreciating asset versus a depreciating one. Because I said, hey, these toys, these Legos you're looking to buy, these Pokemon cards and stuff, are not getting any cheaper. And So this dollar is not gonna go as far. And the next step we took now is we got him a little solo miner, which is this $100 bidax, right? And that's another step in that direction where now they're realizing, wait, I have Bitcoin on a self-custody wallet, but now I can also mine Bitcoin. And like, it's easier than ever before, right? So now he's like, okay, I kind of get this. Right? For me, like, what are you talking about? These are like these little devices that are very easy to use. There's YouTube tutorials for all this stuff. I'm telling you right now, you go on YouTube, 15 minutes, you watch the video, you'll learn. It sounds like a lot.
I just connected my first bidax at home this weekend. Yeah.
Here's the beauty. Every 10 to 15 minutes, my son has a chance to earn like 3.124 Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's essentially a Bitcoin lottery ticket.
It's a Bitcoin lottery because he's mining such a little. We're using so little energy and generating such little hash with that little that little ASIC miner that we're our chances of actually unlocking the block are very, very slim, right? It's 1 in a million.
Yeah.
But people do win them consistently, right?
No, I mean, yeah, just within the last quarter, I've seen like 3 or 4 people where it was clearly a bidax that hit that block.
So you have the upside potential, $300,000. And you just plug this thing in, you let it run. Every 10 minutes, you got an opportunity to unlock it. There's more. It's just such a good way to learn, right? Because at that moment in time, you're like, wait a minute. Let's check this every day, right? Like, let's check it right now. Right?
Yeah, and the government doesn't immediately turn around and steal 50% of it either with the actual lottery. So there's also that to it as well.
Okay, so let's wrap up. Reilly, you want to let everybody know how to find Bitcoin Well and how to find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So just for kind of our homepage, it would just be bitcoinwell.com. If you want to go directly to the Infinite landing page, it would be bitcoinwell.com/OTC. You can find me on LinkedIn. Reilly Combs should pop up pretty easily. I don't think there's too many other Reilly Combses out there. And then I'm on X as well. So maybe like in the description, if you want to like plug, I can give you the URLs for that. If they're not already on Meetup, the Meetup landing page. And yeah, I'll be here from time to time, just like I was in November when I was in the audience for Chantel's presentation. And Chantel, if you guys are going to Bitcoin Day, we'll be a panelist. I'm not sure if that's does she have a scheduled panel?
And you guys will be have a booth there too.
Okay, awesome. So yeah.
They go way back. Y'all got started, what, in 2010?
13.
13, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very early on. They've been in the Bitcoin space for a long time. They're very well known, very respected in the industry. That goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
Because, in this industry, you have a lot of, great intentions and terrible, right,
Yeah.
Mhm.
terrible outcomes. And that's, unfortunately, this whole Web3 space in and of itself has been, this bubble. But
Mhm.
Bitcoin is the OG king of, like he said, is the king of crypto, is the first truly decentralized, biggest computer network in the world ever to exist, right? The proof of work mechanism behind Bitcoin is what makes those coins valuable. When you hold Litecoin or any of these other currencies, like you run the risk of them issuing a bunch more,
Mhm.
or these central servers shutting down and you losing access, right? The
Mhm.
blockchain ceasing to exist, right?
Mhm.
So all of these risks are eliminated, and the beauty of Bitcoin Well is that you can purchase Bitcoin and automatically have it on your cold storage device. So that is unique, and that's something that shows their integrity. They're as a company, they're true Bitcoiners who built a Bitcoin product. So definitely check them out.
Isn't that endorsement?
Yeah, no, yeah.
That's a podcast sponsorship in the making right there.
Good companies win, and they're doing great. We got some great partnerships. Y'all, this should be a good year for you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the kind words. I really appreciate that.
Reilly, a round of applause.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right, that's a wrap.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us, everyone online.